Hello and welcome back to Shoogly Shed Motors, to the workshop. We're continuing with the XJR1300 project today. As you can see, I got busy the other day with the cut-off blade on the angle grinder. I took off the back portion of the subframe. I also took off quite a few spare tabs that I'm probably not going to be using, and took off a bar across the middle that the seat used to mount to, and a few other bits and pieces here and there. But basically the idea is to clean up the back end and clean up the subframe in preparation for welding in a new subframe style. It's quite common for this style of build to go for a seat hoop, and that's what I'm going to go for. However, I'm hoping to employ the use of the natural up curve, up sweep in the original frame with a regular flat seat hoop to gain a sort of hybrid flick up seat hoop. You can buy like pre-bent flick up ones, but I quite like the idea of this is actually quite a shallow flick up compared to some of the ones you can buy, and I quite like that. The only kind of complication that I found was trying to find a seat hoop with the right pipe diameter dimensions, and also the right width for the subframe here, because the subframe tapers. It's about 250mm across here by the shop mounts, and then it narrows into about 230 up here. So the widest one I could find pre-made seat hoop was 230, so it would fit on at this far end, but that would make it far too long. So I'm going to attempt to try and modify the seat hoop that I've purchased by widening it a little bit to fit the frame further in. So I only need to widen it by about 20mm, so not a huge amount, but you know, enough. And I also need to taper it slightly because it's not going to be parallel. Once the hoop has been widened, it's not going to be parallel anymore. So I need to try and cut it in corresponding on the frame in order for it to slot together. So yeah, a little bit of thinking required, but I reckon the outcome should be quite good. Alright, so this is the seat hoop I bought. Like I said, it's 230mm, like outside to outside, which does sort of line up with that there, but obviously that would be a horrendously long seat, maybe a 3-person bike. So I kind of want it to only be roughly that kind of length, but like I say, it tapers to here, so it's wider down here where it starts to flick up at about 250mm. So I need to just double check that measurement and then try and replicate that across here by bending this hoop a little bit wider. So I'm going to try and blowtorch the top of the hoop, soften it just a little bit, not too much, I don't want it to go like a noodle, and then just ease it out a little bit, hopefully not damaging the structural integrity of the pipe. It's not hugely important because it will be getting braced and things, but I just want it to match up neatly and nicely and give myself the best opportunity for welding. A nice neat weld. I don't want to have to be filling gaps with weld like I've done in the past, because it never ends up looking good, and then you end up getting your frame blasted for powder coating and they blast a bunch of holes in your porous welds because you're not actually that good a welder. And yeah, I want to avoid that. I want to do my best job on this bike. That's the whole point, is I want this bike to be my best piece of work yet, so I'm going to try and give myself the best chance. So let's just take our time about this and try and get it right. so we've got it cut off where I want it. It's nice and square on both sides, I'm happy with that. And we do have the taper retained, so it is coming in the way. So now my job is to basically match up the seat hoop to slot into here and weld the two together. Sounds easy, but getting this neat and square is probably the trickiest part here. And like I say, I want to make my life easier with regards to welding, so I want this to work. And I also wanted to, I just want to do a good job. Always want to do a good job. seat hoop is welded on. It's kind of frustrating because I'm a self-taught welder. I'm using a gas MIG welder after all my time making messy welds with gasless MIG. I'm really neat, well, I'm kind of neat on the sort of horizontal, but as soon as I get like vertical or upside down, my welds just sort of glob up and pull and then dribble off, and it makes a bit of a mess. So if anyone has any pointers out there, I'd actually really be interested in hearing them for welding like on the vertical or upside down with MIG. It must be doable. I didn't think, just maybe there's my settings or there's a technique that I don't understand or haven't learned yet. So like I say, if I'm self-taught, you kind of make a lot of mistakes before you get things right, so it'd be nice to cut out the middleman and someone can point me in the right direction of a better technique. Anyway, I'm going to smooth all these welds off anyway, so you won't see them, thank God. They'll just be smooth. It should just look like a seamless tube from the original frame into the seat tube. And then what I'll do is I'll flip it upside down when I've stripped the bike down for powder coating and complete those welds, and then smooth them off as well. I'm just not going to bother finishing the bottoms because they're just making a mess, and it just gives me more work to file or smooth. But yeah, like I say, at least they're not cosmetic welds that you'll see, thank God. fairly standard seat hoop, welded in place, but I have added my little touch of flaring it slightly so it's not parallel. It's not as upswept as the stock ones you'll buy from folk, so it's a little bit more custom that way. And like I say, I'm going to weld up the bottom of it when the frame's stripped apart and upside down. Just because I'm making a mess under here and I don't want to burn off any of the tube material, any more of the tube material. As you saw there, I've just welded in this cross piece as well. Nice big thick kind of, I don't know, 5mm steel, maybe even more than that. So it's a big thick piece across here just to add a little bit of rigidity. I'll also put a bead of weld across the bottom of these parts too. So I've done the top ones just to hold it in place, but as I've learned, MIG welding upside down is tricky, so I'm going to try and avoid that if I can. Then it'll all need to obviously smoothed off and neatened up, and then I can move on to doing a sort of infill mudguardy thing, and then also a battery box and a seat pan, and then I need to think about any other accessories I want to mount to the frame, indicators, light brackets, things like that. So I need to start welding tabs on, fabricating the welding tabs on. However, that's the first modification to the seat, the subframe done, and could have gone worse, could have gone better, could have gone worse. So you take the rough with the smooth, don't you? Anyway, as usual, please do give me a like, leave me a comment, and please subscribe to the Shoogly Shed channel. I really appreciate all the support so far, and I hope you're enjoying what I'm doing with this XJR. I think it's going to be cool in the end, but I do have a long road ahead of me. But yeah, hopefully you enjoy the content, and hopefully you're looking forward to seeing what it looks like in the end. Hopefully we'll have a pretty cool bike by the end of it. But like I say, there's a long way to get there, but I'm looking forward to the challenge. Thanks for joining me. Take care. Goodbye.